In the Philippines, we jump over puddles after a typhoon. We gather clay from volcanic ash, making shapes that make sense. After the earth crumbles, we run to the wreckage, make do with the broken, and assemble something whole. I was born in an archipelago that spells disasters. It's 7,100 islands, born out of wedlock between 59 volcanoes and 1,200 kilometers of fault line, cleaving, transecting, intersecting like friction between lovers who love too much. When the earth is not shaking or spewing rocks, rain comes down hard, cleansing the country, lives and livestock and livelihood washed away to seas, to oceans, to points of no return. 1992. Before I learned how to memorize names of my classmates, I learned how to memorize names of typhoons, Asyang, Biring, Konsing, Ditang. And before I fully understood the mechanics of how storms would come and go, I understood that we have brownouts so we could have fun. The adults made sure that the storm was silenced by the joy that is happening inside the house. My cousins and I would race to see who could light the most candles. We would play with shadows and lights and rabbits and dogs and eagles and spaceships. When the light comes back on, each of us would run to get a candle. Each of us would sing, "Happy birthday to you," even if it's nobody's birthday, just so we could make a wish. Before blowing the candles out, we wished for less damaged homes. We wished for less floods. We wished for less deaths. But we never wished for less rain because we connect as a family when it rains. With candles and photo albums, we learn how both of our grandfathers fought Japanese men during Second World War. With candles and instant noodles, we learn how our grandma was able to fit 3 eggs, half a spoon of salt, and 1 kilo of rice to feed a family of 11. With candles, while doing homework, we learned how our mother and her siblings were climbing 3 mountains every day just to get to school. With candles, while storm is raging outside, we learned how to listen. And when the sun comes back on, each of us would run outside and play. We would jump over puddles as if to say, "Hey, it's over." As if to say, "Look, we've won." 1991. I was barely 6 when Mount Pinatubo produced the second largest terrestrial eruption of the 20th century. It was the only event that was able to reduce temperature at a global scale. Of course, we didn't understand what was happening back then. All I knew was relatives from abroad were calling on a daily basis. All I knew was the roads were gray, the streets were gray, the houses were gray, the clouds were gray, the sky was gray, the rains were gray, the rainbows were gray. Adults cautioned us that there's something toxic in the air, that we should carry umbrellas whenever we needed to step out, but children needed to be children. We saw colors in the colorless. We gathered clay from volcanic ash, making shapes that make sense. And while we haven't fully understood yet the difference between squares and rectangles or circles and oblongs, those afternoons we were making complex prisms and detailed pyramids and perfect spheres. One hot August afternoon, the adults called us outside. There were sightings of blue moons a few days back, but it was barely dusk, so it shouldn't be that. When we stepped out, we saw the most beautiful sunset that we've ever seen. A burning burst of maroon, magenta, lavender, and all the other colors that I couldn't pronounce nor identify back then. The heavens were electrified. And while the dust hasn't settled yet, while the smoke hasn't cleared, we all found peace. 1990. When the Great Luzon earthquake hit us, the other kids and I, we were dancing. Our 2 left feet zigzagging across the floor while our arms are flailing about in graceless abandon. It wasn't until when the adults screamed at us to take over that we realized this isn't supposed to be fun. For months, Baguio was all that's being discussed in the news, that there are no way to send in help, convince that there were no more survivors, international rescue operations have pulled out barely a week after the disaster. But we were all too stubborn to accept defeat. We believed that there are no dead ends, only people who have given up. After the earth rumbles, we run to the wreckage, make do with the broken, and assemble something whole. Our knees haven't even stopped shaking yet, but with trembling hands and steady hearts, we picked up the shovel and started digging for what was lost. Those 2 weeks, there were no miners, no carpenters, no teachers, no students, no fathers or mothers or brothers or sisters. There were only rescuers. And brick by brick, rubble by rubble, we started looking for what was lost. Under one destroyed building, they were able to recover 2 girls on the 11th day. And under the same pile, one man fought hunger and darkness and death for 14 days worldwide. Their stories are still being used as barometers for hope. We, the sun kissed, the wind swept, the weather beaten, our stories are still being used as barometers for hope. I was born in an archipelago that spells disasters. It's 7,100 islands born out of wedlock between 59 volcanoes and 1,200 kilometers of fault lines. But we're also 100 million people strong, 100 million people surviving, 100 million people ready for more in the Philippines. We jump over puddles after a typhoon. We gather clay from volcanic ash, making shapes that make sense. After the earth rumbles, we run to the wreckage, make do with the broken, and assemble something whole.